Hey y'all, I'm in the middle of a massive project building a new entertainment center for my wife. But for this video, I'm going to focus on the middle part of that project, and that's building the tabletops. I'm building two, one for our entertainment center and a matching one for my wife's desk. I'm going to build the desktop first as it doesn't have to be permanent, and I wanted to practice on it to make sure I know what I'm doing to get a good finished product on the entertainment center. I need some more clamps for this glue up, so I decided on these pipe clamps as they're the most economical and I can always extend them to different lengths. I went with the galvanized pipes since it won't stain the wood like black pipes does when it comes in contact with glue. The internet warned that the clamps may slip some on these pipes though, so I actually took them into the store with me and tested them on the pipes before I bought them, and I didn't have any problems. And I didn't have any problems for either of these glue ups as well. After assembling the new clamps, I cut the lumber down to size to get started. I bought S4S cherry boards from my local hardwood dealer, and since they're all the same thickness, we're going to go straight into the glue up. After applying glue and doing the initial tightening, I noticed some of the boards were not completely level, so I attempted to force them into position with a mallet. With a nice flat surface, I let it dry and then started the long sanding process. Turns out these boards were not as smooth as I thought where they transitioned between the boards. I ended up doing some hand planing to get the board transitions in place and to get a flat top, taking way longer than I thought. I filled the one knot with some glue and sawdust as well as a few other places where the transitions weren't perfect. And then I cut the top down to size before wetting the board for a grain pop and doing the final sanding. I then started staining by applying a generous coat all over the board. I let it sit for 5 to 6 minutes and then I wiped off the excess. I let that sit overnight before repeating the process the next day on the other side. And then I did a few coats of poly on each side over the next few days. Overall, it turned out good, but there were some noticeable defects. First, two of the boards ended up blotchy in the middle, while the two on the outside did not. Not really sure what caused that. But the second was the glue marks being visible from where I patched the height difference in the boards with the glue and sawdust after planing. I thought that would stain better, but apparently it's not, as you can definitely see where those are. Lastly, it ended up cupping quite a bit over the staining finishing days. It was dead flat before staining, so that and a few of these other pieces we're going to need to address for the entertainment center top. After prepping the boards for this roughly 9-foot top, I broke out the biscuit joiner to help with the board alignment. It's been a while since I've used this, but the first thing you always got to do is test to make sure the biscuits you're trying to use will actually fit in the holes. So you put one in, mark it down the center, and then flip it over to make sure the line's covered by the hole on the other side. Otherwise, the boards will never get close to each other, something I learned a few years back on a different project. After getting the right size biscuit, I marked the boards and cut the holes every foot. For the glue up, I like to glue in the biscuits first along both the boards and then come back and add the rest of the glue for final assembly. This time I was much more diligent about cleaning up my glue squeeze out. Once done, it was time to scribe this to the entertainment center area using some cardboard. I cut out strips of the cardboard, then I took it inside and used a pencil along the wall to scribe the variability of the drywall for the cut. I then cut out that line to make sure it was a perfect fit. Once I completed that for all sides, I taped them together and then I transferred that back out to the garage. I confirmed my measurements while taping the template down on the board and then marked it and cut it out. After a quick test fit, it was back outside for sanding. After checking it was flat again, I decided to try something different for finishing. This time I did use preconditioner, let it sit for 30 minutes, and then I put the stain on with a rag, both to help keep from wasting stain, but also to help control the quantity of stain going onto the board to try and keep the blotching down. I did this on the bottom first, and then I immediately flipped it over and did the same to the top. So at the end of the night, both sides had a coat of stain on it. The next day, I did the same, starting with the bottom and applied 3 coats of water-based poly 1 hour apart, and then flipped it and did 3 coats on the top. So again, the same amount on each side each day. Then the final day, I sanded all sides, and since it was all sealed, I then just did my 2 final top coats to get the top surface how I wanted it. It turned out much better from a stain consistency, and that deep honey finish on these cherry boards really looks nice. After getting in place, it was still flat, so that seemed to fix the warping issues. Overall, I really liked how this last one turned out. Though I'll likely sand down and refinish the tabletop, I feel like the extra time using the biscuits did cut down on my sanding and flattening time, and the different staining finishing method really helped it turn out great without cupping and without the blotchiness. Well, that's it for the countertops, but there's a lot more to come in the next video where we build this whole entertainment center. See you for that one soon.